The quiet before the storm. It was a quiet morning on Earth, one of those mornings where everything seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful. People went about their routines, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the stars. The birds chirped, cars hummed along busy streets, and the sun rose as it always had. Life on Earth seemed normal. But in the deep, dark void of space, a storm was gathering, one that no one on Earth could see coming. Far away, in the depths of the Milky Way, a fleet of alien ships moved in secret. The Zirakians, a race of ruthless, technologically advanced beings, were on the move. They had watched Earth from afar for years, studying its defenses, or, more accurately, its lack of defenses. To them, Earth was nothing more than a primitive world, barely worth the time it took to travel across the galaxy. Their fleet was powerful, their weapons devastating. They believed they could wipe out humanity with ease, leaving the planet ripe for colonization. But what the Zirakians didn't know was that Earth had a secret no one, not even the governments, fully understood. The Zirakians' plan was simple: a surprise attack. They would hit Earth in the dead of night, catching it off guard. Their ships would descend like shadows, their advanced cloaking technology making them nearly invisible to Earth's outdated defense systems. Their first strike would cripple the planet, leaving humanity helpless. The alien fleet's commander, General Vrex, smiled as he thought about the easy victory. Earth was no match for them. In the heart of Earth's most powerful cities, people went about their day as if nothing was wrong. Government officials held meetings, children went to school, and families gathered for dinner. They had no idea that a fleet of alien ships was on its way. The quiet was suffocating, almost as if the calm before the storm had wrapped the entire planet in a false sense of security. But one man knew better. General Kell was a name that once struck fear into the hearts of Earth's enemies. He had been a military leader, a strategist, and a protector. But now, after years of retirement, he spent his days in solitude, far away from the battles he used to fight. He had seen the changes Earth had gone through: peace, prosperity, and the slow decay of military strength. People no longer worried about threats from the stars. Earth had become comfortable, too comfortable. The threat of an alien invasion was something they had pushed to the back of their minds. Yet, General Kell had never forgotten. Years ago, when Earth had first made contact with an alien species, one far more advanced than humanity had ever imagined, he had been the first to suggest caution. He had warned that Earth's safety could not be guaranteed. But his advice had been ignored. Earth had focused on peace and cooperation, believing that no one would dare attack. He had watched helplessly as Earth's military force shrank and weakened, trusting that other nations would protect the planet if the need arose. He was wrong. He had been so wrong. Now, in his quiet retirement, something stirred within him. His instincts, honed through years of battle, told him that something was coming. Something big. He couldn't ignore it any longer. Kell had access to certain military networks, ones that had not been deactivated after his retirement. Late one night, while poring over old reports, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A strange set of readings from space. Something was moving toward Earth. He called his old contacts, people he hadn't spoken to in years, but the response he got was worse than he expected. There was nothing. No response. No warning. The security systems around the planet were showing no signs of a threat. The information he had, the data he had gathered, was dismissed as a glitch. Everyone else thought it was a false alarm. But Kell knew better. His instincts told him the danger was real. And this time, there would be no one to save Earth. Meanwhile, in the vastness of space, the Zirakian fleet closed in. General Vrex watched the coordinates on his screen, his cold eyes narrowing as he prepared his forces for the assault. His fleet was composed of more than 100 warships, massive, sleek vessels designed to obliterate anything in their path. The Zirakians had destroyed entire civilizations before, and Earth would be no different. As the alien fleet approached, Earth's orbit appeared to be clear. No defense systems were active, no sign of any resistance. The Zerakians had made the right call. They would strike fast, and they would strike hard. No one would have time to react. Earth's cities would burn, and the planet would fall under Zerakian control. But something wasn't right. Vrex could feel it. He had led countless successful raids, but there was something different about Earth. It was almost as if the planet was hiding something. On Earth, General Kell wasn't the only one who sensed something was wrong. Deep in Antarctica, a small team of researchers were working on something that was supposed to remain classified. Project Aegis. The project was a defense system unlike any other, hidden away from public knowledge. Only a handful of people knew of its existence. The system was built to protect Earth from a threat that few people had ever considered: an alien invasion. It was a last resort, something no one hoped to use. But now, the time had come. The system had been activated, and Earth's military was about to be thrust into the most dangerous battle it had ever faced. But even Project Aegis wasn't enough to prepare humanity for what was coming. The attack would come from the skies, swift and deadly, and there was no way to predict how many would survive. The world went on, unaware, as the alien fleet drew closer. Time was running out. The storm was almost here. Would Earth survive? General Kell didn't know. All he could do was wait and prepare for the fight of his life. The quiet before the storm was coming to an end. The night sky above Earth sparkled with stars as usual. Everything looked calm. But in the dark void beyond, the alien fleet moved into final position. General Vrex stood inside the command room of his flagship, staring at the blue and green planet. Earth looked so small, so helpless. He gave a quiet command in his native tongue, and the first wave of Zerakian ships began to descend toward the planet's surface. In orbit, Earth's satellites blinked. Some went dark without warning. Communication systems in several countries began to fail. First, it was a glitch. Then it spread. Power grids flickered in major cities. Lights went out. Planes lost contact with control towers. Panic started in small waves. People in New York, Tokyo, and London looked up and noticed the sky turning strange. Clouds swirled in odd patterns. Static filled radios. Cell signals vanished. No one knew what was happening, but fear grew quickly. Earth was being attacked, and no one even saw the enemy yet. In a military base hidden under Greenland's ice, General Kell stood in front of a large screen. The data confirmed it. Earth was under siege. His voice was calm but firm as he gave orders to awaken dormant protocols. Across the globe, secret bunkers lit up, old weapons reactivated, and retired officers were recalled. Kell had known this day would come. He had begged the leaders of Earth to stay ready. They didn't listen. Now the planet had only hours to fight back. He turned to the young officer beside him and said, "Start Project Aegis. Now." Meanwhile, the Zerakian ships pierced Earth's upper atmosphere. Their cloaking fields made them invisible to normal radar. They moved like ghosts. One by one, they dropped silent pods onto Earth's surface. Black, metallic eggs filled with energy weapons and robotic troops. These pods landed in forests, deserts, and near power stations. Within minutes, the pods opened and unleashed chaos. Towers exploded. Bridges fell. Military bases were wiped out before soldiers could even react. The Zerakians had done this before to many planets. It was always fast and brutal. Earth was just another name on their list. But then, something unexpected happened. As one of the Zerakian scout ships approached an old mountain range, it was hit by a sudden energy beam. The ship shook violently and exploded midair. It shocked the alien commanders. Earth was supposed to have no real defense. Where did the weapon come from? They scanned the area again, but found nothing. Before they could react, 2 more alien ships were destroyed by similar hidden beams. The attacks came from under the ground. Hidden turrets, long buried and silent for decades, now roared to life. Project Aegis had awakened. In a hidden command center beneath Antarctica, a group of young operators worked quickly. They had been trained for this situation, but never thought they would see it. Screens lit up showing hundreds of red dots, Zerakian ships everywhere. The young woman leading the team, Officer Lena Cruz, kept her voice steady as she shouted commands. Drones launched. Defense satellites came online. Earth was fighting back. Back in orbit, General Vrex looked confused for the first time. Earth was not as weak as they thought. Still, he believed it was too little, too late. The main attack had not even started. With a wave of his hand, he gave the order to send the main assault force. More ships entered Earth's atmosphere, larger and deadlier than the first wave. They rained down fire on cities, tearing through buildings and destroying roads. Screams echoed across the planet. But now, Earth was responding. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky. Missile systems activated. Giant mechanical walls rose from hidden bunkers to protect key locations. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough. But it was resistance. In the middle of all this chaos, General Kale received a secure call. The face on the screen was an old friend, Admiral Reyes, commander of Earth's last orbital station. He spoke with urgency. "We can't hold them up here, Kale. We're losing ships." Kale nodded. "Hold them as long as you can. Earth needs time." Reyes sighed. "You always warned us. I just wish we had listened." Then the signal cut off. Kale clenched his jaw. His eyes burned with anger, not just at the aliens, but at the years of wasted peace, the blind belief that Earth would never be attacked. Now people were dying because of that mistake, but he couldn't let grief slow him down. The real battle hadn't even begun. Back on the alien mothership, General Vrex received his own surprise. A probe returned data showing something strange deep beneath one of Earth's oceans. A signal, very old but powerful. It pulsed with energy not found anywhere else on the planet. Vrex stared at the readings. Something about it bothered him. "Send a scan team," he growled. But even before the scan could complete, the ocean began to shift. Waves crashed. Water spun into great spirals. Something ancient was waking up. The storm had only just begun, and yet, humanity was already fighting for its survival. The Zerakians had underestimated Earth's ability to defend itself, but as each minute passed, they realized the planet's people weren't as weak as they had thought. General Kale watched the chaos unfold, trying to steady himself. There was only one option now. Humanity had to rise, and rise fast. On the surface, Earth's military was stretched thin. The alien assault was relentless. Hundreds of Zerakian warships continued to strike cities, military bases, and strategic locations. But in the midst of the destruction, there was something unexpected happening beneath the ocean. Deep in the waters of the Pacific, the ancient signal had activated. It was a signal unlike anything the Zerakians had ever encountered. The aliens had no idea what it was, but the hum of the energy pulse reverberated across the planet, reaching places where no one thought to look. The pulse was the key to Earth's last defense, a defense built in secret long before the first contact with alien races, a weapon that had been hidden, buried deep beneath the waves for centuries. It was the legacy of humanity's ancient ancestors, built when Earth was a much younger world. This weapon, known only to a few, was designed for moments exactly like this. When Earth's survival was at risk, the ancient systems would awaken. And now, they were waking up. As the Zerakians continued their assault from above, unaware of the weapon below, General Kale realized what had just happened. He'd heard the rumors, but he never truly believed it. He never thought Earth had kept such a secret. But the hum was real. The weapon was real. Humanity had something the aliens could never understand. Kale didn't waste any time. He immediately called for a full-scale military strike to buy them the time they needed. Fighter jets launched into the air. Missiles streaked across the sky. For every ship the Zerakians destroyed, 2 more human fighters appeared. The battle was fierce, and Earth's defenses were pushed to the limit. But beneath the ocean's surface, something massive was stirring. The first signs were small, tremors under the water, strange readings from the deep. Then, a massive underwater structure began to rise. It was slow at first, but as the waves parted and the water cleared, it became clear just how enormous it was. It was a ship, but not like any the humans had ever seen. Its design was ancient, covered in markings no one recognized. But one thing was certain, it was built for war. The ship was the size of a small moon. As it broke the surface of the water, it released a shockwave that sent ripples across the oceans. The Zerakians didn't know what hit them. They had never expected such a weapon, let alone one hidden beneath Earth's oceans. On board the ancient ship, its systems powered up. Its weaponry, once dormant, hummed to life. Energy cannons, stronger than any Earth had ever seen, began to charge. The first blast fired and ripped through a Zerakian warship like paper. It didn't stop there. The ship fired again and again, tearing through the alien fleet's outer defenses. The Zerakian commanders were stunned. The force of the blast was unlike anything they had encountered. The power of the weapon was overwhelming. In a matter of moments, the aliens began to retreat. But they weren't gone. They were angry. They would not be defeated so easily. General Kale watched from his command center as the battle shifted in Earth's favor. For the first time since the attack had begun, Earth's military forces had an advantage. The Zerakians were caught off guard, forced to regroup and rethink their strategy. Kale knew the fight wasn't over. The Zerakians were strong, ruthless, and persistent. But Earth now had something they didn't: hope. The ancient weapon had given them a chance. But it wasn't enough yet. The Zerakians had more ships coming. They would be back with vengeance. But Kale wasn't about to let that happen. He gathered his remaining forces and prepared for the next phase of the battle. The Zerakians had taken their shot, but now humanity was fighting back. And this time, humanity wasn't going to fall without a fight. In the alien fleet, General Vrex was furious. His ships had been taken by surprise, and his forces were in disarray. He had never expected Earth to have anything so powerful, so ancient. But he was a master strategist, and he wasn't going to let this setback stop him. He gave the order to call for reinforcements, more ships, more firepower. He had underestimated Earth once. He wouldn't make that mistake again. As Earth's ancient weapon continued to unleash destruction upon the Zerakians, General Vrex's next move was clear. He would bring down Earth, no matter what it took. The battle was far from over. This was only the beginning, and General Kale knew that the hardest fight was yet to come. But one thing was certain now: Earth was not defenseless, and the Zerakians would soon learn that underestimating humanity was their biggest mistake. The sky above Earth was dark, filled with smoke and broken starships. Cities burned, oceans raged, and the world trembled. But for the first time, Earth was not silent. It had answered back, with a weapon no one expected. The ancient warship had awakened, and it had changed everything. General Kale stood in the command center, eyes locked on the holographic display. Alien ships still hovered above the planet, but they were no longer advancing. They were watching, waiting. After the surprise attack from Earth's hidden warship, the Zerakian fleet had pulled back. But Kale knew it was only a matter of time before they struck again. "They're regrouping," Kale said quietly. "They're not retreating. They're planning something worse." Across the galaxy, General Vrex of the Zerakian Empire was indeed planning. He paced inside his massive flagship, face full of rage and disbelief. His fleet had never lost a battle. He had never been forced to fall back. But now, a so-called primitive world had wounded his pride. And his ships. "We underestimated them," he growled. "That was our first mistake. We won't make another." He issued the command. All nearby battle groups were to join him at Earth. The skies would be filled with fire. Earth would be broken. Vrex swore it. Back on Earth, the old warship floated over the ocean like a giant beast from another time. Humans had started calling it the Guardian. No one knew who built it. No one knew when, but it was clear. It was made by someone who once protected Earth, and now it was protecting them again. Engineers and scientists rushed to study it, hoping to understand how it worked. But the ship didn't wait for orders. It moved on its own. It picked its targets and fired with perfect aim. It was like it remembered the purpose it was built for. But time was running out. Satellites picked up something terrifying. More Zerakian ships. Dozens. Then hundreds. A second wave was coming, stronger than the first. Earth's armies had barely survived the last battle. Now they faced an even greater threat. Kale gathered with Earth's top commanders. "We don't have the numbers," one of them said. "We don't have the tech." "But we have something more important," Kale replied. "We have something to fight for. And now we have the Guardian." They made a plan. Earth's defense forces would stand their ground, using everything they had. The Guardian would lead the charge, while humans across the globe prepared to resist. When the second wave arrived, it was like the sky tore open. The Zerakian ships blocked out the stars. Energy blasts lit up the sky like fireworks, except these fireworks destroyed everything in their path. But Earth didn't break. From the ground, missiles shot upward. From orbit, the Guardian released blinding beams of light that cut through enemy cruisers. Human fighters flew alongside it, small but fierce, and all across the planet, people watched and hoped. For a moment, it looked like humanity might hold the line. But then something new appeared. From the edge of space, a shape darker than the void itself entered the battle. It was the Zerakian super dreadnought, Vrex's personal warship, 10 times bigger than anything seen before. Its armor could survive suns. Its weapons could crack moons. As it moved closer to Earth, silence fell. Even the Guardian paused. General Kale stared at the screen. "That thing," he whispered. "It's coming for us." The Guardian charged forward. So did Vrex. The two giants collided above the ocean. Their weapons shook the sky. Thunder and fire clashed. Entire fleets moved around them. But everyone knew this was the real battle. Human ships tried to help, but the super dreadnought swatted them away like flies. The Guardian fought alone, blasting with ancient power. But even it struggled. The alien dreadnought was newer, smarter, crueler. Kale watched as the Guardian took hit after hit. "Come on," he said under his breath. "Don't fall now." Inside the dreadnought, Vrex grinned. "You surprised me, Earth, but you'll still burn." The Guardian, damaged and sparking, didn't stop. Its energy core glowed brighter. Its systems began to shift. Something inside it awakened. Something no one had seen yet. Its shape began to change. Armor moved. Plates unfolded. New weapons rose from its surface. The ship was transforming. It wasn't just a warship. It was something more. A final defense mode. As the transformation finished, the Guardian fired a massive beam from its heart. Pure white energy that lit the entire sky. It hit the dreadnought straight in the front. For the first time, the Zerakian ship shuddered. Vrex's grin vanished. Smoke poured from the dreadnought's side. It fired back with everything it had. But the Guardian stood tall. Earth was not done yet. And as both giants prepared for one last strike, the galaxy held its breath. The next move would decide everything. The battle above Earth had reached its peak. The two giants, Earth's Guardian and the Zerakian super dreadnought, were locked in a deadly dance. The sky was filled with sparks, fire, and the sound of weapons clashing. It was a battle that would determine humanity's fate and Earth's future. General Kale stood at the command center, watching the chaos unfold. His heart raced as he saw the Guardian struggling against the massive alien warship. It was taking hit after hit, but somehow it kept fighting back. The Guardian wasn't just a machine. It was something more, a symbol of humanity's resilience. He clenched his fists, feeling a surge of hope and fear. We have to win this, no matter the cost. On the ground, soldiers were fighting too. Cities were in ruins, but humanity was far from defeated. They had something the aliens never expected: unity. And more importantly, they had the will to survive. Back in the skies, Vrex, the Zerakian general, watched the battle with growing frustration. His massive warship had taken damage. The Guardian's power was unlike anything he had encountered before. He had never underestimated an enemy more than he had Earth, and now it was too late to turn back. The two ships exchanged blast after blast. The Guardian's energy beams struck the dreadnought again, this time ripping through the enemy's outer defenses. The Zerakian ship faltered, but Vrex wasn't ready to give up. He knew the key to victory: sheer power. "Bring everything we have," he ordered. "This ends now." The Zerakian fleet surged forward, and hundreds of ships opened fire on the Guardian. The Guardian responded with its own weapons, but it was becoming clear. The alien fleet had more numbers, more firepower, and more resolve. Kale watched, feeling the pressure building. The Guardian was holding strong, but it was being overwhelmed. "It's not enough," he muttered. "We need more." And then, as if on cue, something incredible happened. A signal reached Kale's comms, faint but unmistakable. It was from the underground command base. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "It's time, General," the voice said. Kale didn't ask questions. He rushed to the control panel and issued the order. The underground bases, long kept secret from the world, were about to deploy their final secret weapon, one that had been kept hidden for centuries. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a weapon. It was something else entirely. Something Earth had kept in reserve for just such a moment. Across the planet, hundreds of underground bunkers opened, and massive machines began to rise from the Earth. These weren't ordinary machines. They were massive, colossal behemoths, each one designed for a single purpose: to turn the tide of battle. The first of these machines emerged from the ground, towering over cities. It was a war machine like no other, equipped with advanced technology far beyond the Zerakians' understanding. It was humanity's ultimate weapon. One by one, the machines appeared, each one more powerful than the last. They were built to move quickly, fight fiercely, and destroy anything in their path. The Earth's forces, now reinforced with these incredible machines, began to fight back with renewed strength. The Guardian, still locked in battle with the dreadnought, fired one more powerful blast before retreating to join the machines. Together, they formed a new front line. But the Zerakians weren't done yet. Vrex, seeing the new threat, ordered his fleet to attack with everything they had. They had more ships, more weapons, and they would not be stopped. But humanity was ready. General Kale knew the battle was far from over. The machines were powerful, but the Zerakians were relentless. He needed to give Earth's forces a fighting chance, something more. And then he saw it. The Guardian, after moments of being battered, started to charge up its energy core again. But this time, it wasn't just the Guardian's weapons that powered up. The machines, the war machines, began to synchronize with the Guardian. They linked together, forming a powerful network of human technology, united by one purpose: victory. With a deafening roar, the machines and the Guardian launched a final assault on the Zerakian fleet. The energy beams from the Guardian merged with the power of the war machines, creating a blinding light that struck down alien ships with terrifying precision. The battle reached its peak as the Zerakians were forced to retreat. The sheer power of humanity's united forces was overwhelming. Vrex's fleet was torn apart, and the once invincible super dreadnought was no match for Earth's combined might. Vrex, watching his fleet crumble, realized something he hadn't understood before. Earth was no longer the weak, defenseless planet they had fought. Earth was a force to be reckoned with. But the battle wasn't over. There were still more ships, more alien forces coming. But this time, Kale knew they had the upper hand. They had proved that humanity wasn't to be underestimated. As the last of the Zerakian ships retreated into the darkness of space, General Kale allowed himself a brief moment of relief. Earth had won. For now. But he knew that this was only the beginning. The victory above Earth was a bitter one. The battle was over, but the war was far from finished. General Kale stood at the command center, his eyes fixed on the empty space where the Zerakian fleet had been moments before. The alien ships had retreated, but Kale knew they would return. They were too powerful, too determined. This fight was only the beginning. But for now, Earth had won, and that was enough to give humanity a reason to hope. Across the planet, people celebrated. The machines, which had risen from the Earth like titans, were hailed as the saviors of the world. They had been a last resort weapon, something so powerful that it had been kept hidden for centuries, and now they had proved their worth. Earth's forces had held their ground, not just because of the Guardian or the machines, but because of one thing: the will to survive. The war had started with Earth on the brink of destruction, but now the tables had turned. The alien invaders had learned that Earth wasn't just a planet to conquer, it was a planet that would fight back. General Kale stood before a holographic map of the solar system. The stars flickered, but one thing was clear: Earth was not alone anymore. There were other civilizations out there, and the Zerakian Empire was not the only force in the galaxy. As Kale looked at the map, his mind raced. The Zerakians would not stop until they had Earth in their grasp. But Kale had learned something in this battle. Humans were capable of far more than anyone could have imagined. The machines, the Guardian, and the bravery of Earth's people had proven that. They won't stop coming, Kale said aloud to the gathered commanders. The Zerakian Empire is relentless, but we have one advantage they don't. What's that, sir? Asked one of the officers, his face full of concern. We know what they're capable of, Kale replied. And they don't know what we can do. It was true. The Zerakians had underestimated Earth, just like every other empire in the galaxy. They had thought humans were weak, easy to defeat. But now, they had seen the strength of Earth's resolve. They had seen the power of the Guardian. And they had seen the war machines that had come from the very core of the planet. But Earth wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. Earth was fighting for its future. And General Kale knew that if they were to win this war, they would have to strike first. They couldn't wait for the Zerakians to make their next move. They had to take the fight to them. Prepare our forces, Kale ordered. We're going on the offensive. For weeks, Earth's military forces, alongside the machines and the Guardian, prepared for the next phase of the war. They were building new fleets, new weapons, and new strategies. Every nation on Earth worked together, pushing aside their differences to unite against a common enemy. The war had become more than a fight for survival. It had become a fight for freedom, for the future of every person on Earth. In the depths of space, the Zerakian Empire was recovering from its losses. General Vrex, now more determined than ever, was making plans for the next assault. He had underestimated Earth before, but he would not make the same mistake twice. He knew that the humans had powerful weapons, but Vrex was confident that the sheer might of his fleet would be enough to crush them. But there was one thing Vrex hadn't counted on. The Guardian was still out there. And so were the machines. Earth's forces were more prepared than ever, and they were ready to strike at the heart of the Zerakian Empire. Kale watched the stars outside the window, knowing that soon they would be at war once again. The next battle would be the one that decided the fate of Earth. Would humanity stand its ground? Or would the Zerakians crush them once and for all? As Earth's forces gathered, the time for talk was over. Now it was time for action. The countdown to the next battle had begun. The final battle was upon them. General Kale stood before the command center, his face hard as steel. He looked out at the fleet of ships that had gathered to defend Earth. The Guardian was ready, along with the war machines, Earth's last line of defense. The stakes had never been higher. This battle would determine if humanity could truly survive, or if the Zerakians would finally crush them. The time had come to take the fight to the Zerakians. The sky above Earth was silent, but Kale knew that silence wouldn't last. Far above the planet, the Zerakian fleet was gathering. The massive ships, once thought invincible, were preparing for one last assault. General Vrex, who had underestimated humanity at every turn, was ready to make one final push to end the war. "We're ready, sir," said Commander Talia, her voice steady. She looked at the fleet, knowing that this was their last chance. The Guardian is primed. The war machines are in position. Earth's forces are prepared. Kale nodded, his expression grim. "We have one shot at this. We cannot afford to fail. Not now. Not ever." He turned to face the holographic map of the solar system. The Zerakian fleet was approaching fast, and they were bringing everything they had. But Kale knew something they didn't. Humanity had learned and adapted. They had fought, survived, and now they were ready to win. The battle began as the Zerakian fleet descended toward Earth, their massive warships releasing torrents of energy. The first blasts hit the atmosphere, sending shockwaves across the planet. Earth's defense fleet engaged immediately, but the sheer power of the Zerakians was overwhelming. The air shook, and the sky lit up with explosions. Then, from the depths of Earth, the war machines rose once more. Towering over the battlefield, they advanced with incredible speed. Each machine was equipped with energy weapons and armor so advanced that they were practically unstoppable. They charged into the fray, unleashing torrents of fire at the Zerakian ships. The Earth's forces fought with everything they had, but the Zerakians were relentless. The Guardian led the charge, cutting through the alien fleet with its massive energy beams. Each shot from the Guardian sent shockwaves through the Zerakian ships, their defenses breaking apart with each hit. For the first time in the war, the Zerakians were on the defensive. But Vrex was not ready to give up. In his command ship, he seethed with rage. He had seen his fleet fall apart before, but now he was prepared to do whatever it took to destroy Earth. "Send in the reserve fleet," he ordered. "We will crush them, no matter the cost." The reserve fleet, larger and more powerful than the one already engaged, was unleashed. Thousands of ships surged forward, flooding the battlefield. Their weapons fired in unison, raining down destruction on Earth's forces. The Guardian faltered for a moment under the intense fire, and Kel's heart skipped a beat. "Hold strong, Guardian," Kale muttered under his breath. Then something changed. The war machines, synchronized with the Guardian, began to fight with a new level of precision. The machines adapted. They learned the patterns of the Zerakian fleet, anticipating their moves before they even made them. The combined strength of humanity's technology was too much for the Zerakians to handle. One by one, the Zerakian ships began to fall. Their energy shields shattered. Their weapons faltered. Vrex, in his desperation, ordered a final strike, an all-out attack with everything they had left. A massive beam of energy shot toward the Guardian, and for a moment, it seemed like Earth's last hope might be destroyed. But Kale had one last card to play. He pressed a button on the control panel, activating a secret weapon hidden within the Guardian itself. The ship's core began to glow brighter than ever before. The energy built up, and with a deafening roar, the Guardian unleashed a massive, blinding beam of energy, stronger than anything it had fired before. The beam cut through the Zerakian reserve fleet, tearing apart ships in its path. The shockwave knocked many others out of the sky. In moments, the Zerakians were on the brink of collapse. Vrex watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated before his eyes. His ships were no match for the combined might of Earth's forces. He had underestimated humanity once again. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, Vrex ordered his flagship to flee. But it was too late. The Guardian and the war machines closed in, and the flagship was struck down, burning in the atmosphere as it plummeted toward Earth's surface. The battle was over. Kale watched as the last of the Zerakian ships retreated into the darkness of space, leaving behind a shattered fleet. Earth had won. The impossible had been achieved. Humanity had defeated a force far stronger and more advanced than anything they could have imagined. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then, the command center erupted into cheers. The Earth's forces had prevailed. Kale turned to his commanders, his face calm but resolute. "We've done it," he said. "But this isn't the end. The galaxy is full of dangers, and Earth is no longer just a forgotten world. We have shown that humanity will fight, and we will win." As the people of Earth celebrated their victory, they knew that the war with the Zerakians was just the beginning of a new chapter. The galaxy was vast, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: no one would ever underestimate Earth again. And as Kale looked out at the stars, he knew that humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. Earth was no longer just a fragile planet at the edge of the universe. It was a force to be reckoned with, and they had only just begun.